activating intuition. Do you have an intuition? Do you have that inner knowing? Is it something maybe that some people are born with? It's a gift that they have, other people have, and you don't. And my answer to you is, no, that's not true. You definitely have an intuition. You definitely have an inner knowing, however you want to speak about it, a connection to source, the universe. You have that in you. It's not like other people have it and you don't. And it's a matter of building the relationship. So, and again, this was me. So trying to think back, maybe 18 years ago, and I was talking to one of my first coaches at the time. Her name was Julia, her name is still Julia Stewart. And she and I were talking, like I'd hired her. I was going through coaching certification, and maybe it was more than 18 years ago then. But I said to her, you know, one thing I could really also use help on is this intuition thing. I just don't think I have an intuition. And she just looked at me like, actually, it's so funny. Like I said, that she looked at me because back then we didn't have any video conferencing options at all. So we were on the phone. So in my mind, I think she was making a face at me because her voice said like, what are you talking about? You totally have an intuition. And I feel that you're very intuitive. And so it was almost like I had looked at other people and thought, well, obviously they are very intuitive. They know these things. They have these magical experiences happen to them that can't be explained in any other way, shape, or form. And I just don't have that connection. She's like, no, you definitely do. It's just a matter of building that relationship. And maybe so the first step, I would say, if you feel like you don't have it, or you want to deepen your connection with your intuition, is really believe the connection is there. Like it's always there for you. It's not that it's there sometimes and not available other times, like it goes offline or something like bad Wi-Fi. It's always there for you. Okay. So believe that it's there, and then trust. So that's kind of, they sound almost the same, but they're not. So believe, first of all, you are an intuitive person. You have that connection. It's always there for you. And then trust it, trust yourself. And I know this can be really hard to have the trust. So one of the ways to build trust, and think about, this is a relationship you're building, like a relationship with anybody else in your life. And say, if you had a friend and you didn't contact them for months or even years, like you had a really good friend, you're great friends when you were in school, when you were a kid, and then you just dropped off the face of the earth. You didn't respond to them in any way, shape, or form. And now you decided, hey, you know what? I want to be friends again. You got to build the trust back up, because you've had this habit of kind of going like radio silent, right? So your intuition is like, okay, well, I don't know when you're going to be, I'm here for you, but we got to kind of work on this relationship a little bit together. Okay. So trust that it's there for you. Let's build this relationship. So one way to start building the trust is to just look for evidence. Look for evidence. And that definitely was kind of part of my journey as well, is when I thought, God, I'm not intuitive. And Julia, my coach, said, you definitely are. I started looking for evidence that I was, and I could find very key moments in my life where I had an inner knowing. I just had a feeling. I couldn't explain why. One simple story was, and I had a really big history. This is where the building up of the relationship is really key and important. I had when I look back, a history of having the inner knowing and then ignoring it, like not trusting it, ignoring it. So one time I was leaving my house. My car was parked on the street, and it was a pretty wide street. It's like a 4-lane street. It was wide. And I was leaving, and something like I think I was riding my bike. I was leaving, and I looked back at my car, like I had this feeling, and my side view mirror on the driver's side, something told me to turn it in, right? So that it wasn't sticking out, which is something I've never done before. And again, the street is totally wide. I kind of had that hit. I've turned that window mirror in, and I just, and my brain overrode it. My logical mind said, oh, there's no need to do that. Even though I was like a few steps away, there's no need to do that. Like the street is plenty wide. Like I totally overrode it by explanation and logic. So I went off and did my errands, whatever it was I was doing. And yep, I came back and that mirror was smashed in, like it was trashed. So I was just like, whoa, like I got the knowing and I ignored it. And here's the evidence. And I think a lot of times there's that you have the inner knowing and you turn a certain corner, or go down a street, you park in a certain place in the parking lot, and you don't get that cool evidence, or the negative evidence of like, oh, you ignored it. You don't necessarily know why you had to do that thing, but just kind of trust. So anytime you feel a feeling, so first look for evidence, look back in your life. What are these moments that you had and you trusted and you listened and something cool happened? What are the moments where maybe you had the inner knowing or the intuitive hit and you ignored it and something not so great happened? Maybe write these things down. Just last week, actually, I was going to a yoga festival in Sedona. I parked my car, kind of looked around. The lot was really big and it was not very full at all. And I kind of circled around and decided, okay, I'm going to pick this spot. And then I went off to take a yoga class. And when I got down to the space and put my mat out, I realized, oh, shoot, I forgot my water bottle. It's a really warm day. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to book back up there to my car. And I went back to my car. And right when I got there, I was going to the back hatch to pull it up to get my water bottle. I heard this voice go, Kim? And I turned, I'm like, yeah. And parked right next to me. And again, this very big empty lot is this woman I know, who I hadn't seen in over a year. I didn't tell her I was in Sedona. And she just happened to park right next to me. And she happened to be there right at the time I happened to come back to get my water bottle, which I'd forgotten. So, you know, these things, just start to catalog these things. If anything like that has happened to you, start to write them down, build the evidence to help build kind of the belief and the trust. That's something fun you can do. It can be very eye-opening sometimes when you're like, start to connect the dots when you're looking back on your past. And then practicing. So if you decide you might want to have a conversation with your intuition, you might actually want to even just like sit and visualize, or however you do these things on your own. Because I don't like to tell people if this is the way you should do it. You need to find the way that works for you. And maybe sitting with your eyes closed and visualizing isn't comfortable for you. So maybe it's just kind of playing in your mind, like you're watching a movie or something, or just hearing a conversation in your mind that you're having with your intuition. However you want to embody that intuition, whether it has a physical form, it looks like an entity or a person, or it's just kind of this figure. Do whatever works for you. But have a conversation with your intuition, maybe, and just say, hey, you know what? I want to believe, I want to trust, I want to deepen that relationship. What do I need to do? What can I do to help strengthen our relationship so I can hear you better? You can write this down. You can like write a letter to your intuition. There's so many different things you can do. Just kind of let your intuition guide you on what is going to work best for you, and just open and trust. Have fun with it. I don't like to get too serious on these things, but whatever, if that's your style, you're like, no, I love the ceremony. I love being solemn, right? That works for you. Like lighting candles and like turning down the lights and like putting on special music or putting on, lighting incense, whatever works for you. And just to signal that you want to work on this relationship with your intuition. And then practicing, the more you do it, the more you actually work with your intuition on a daily basis, the easier and easier and easier it's going to get. The receiving the messages is going to become faster, stronger, louder. I just really highly recommend that whenever you get those messages, that you act on them. Okay, don't try to logic them. A lot of times we are so used to using data and logic and pros and cons, and your intuition's not going to do that. Your intuition typically is just going to give you information. It's not going to feel the need to defend itself or explain to you why. That's not its job. So your job is to, if you're going to embark on this practice in any way, shape, or form that works for you, is to simply ask a question, and then listen, right? Ask, listen, just be open to what you feel. Like, it may not be words, it might not be something you hear. Some people do hear that. It might be a feeling, it might be images. So you're listening and then you're receiving, right? Ask, listen, receive. And part of the receiving is also trusting and acting on whatever it is you receive, right? So if you're in my position, you would have just taken those extra steps, turned in that side view mirror, right? Our intuition is here to protect us, right? So it's here to protect you. It's here for your highest good. And again, if you've ever done something where you thought you had an inner knowing and it didn't turn out great, then that's where trust can be broken in the past. And it might not have been your intuition, or it might have been more your logic that came in that was masquerading as intuition. It's kind of tricky, but the more you look at it, especially from a loving, non-judgmental way, you're not trying to make yourself right or wrong in the past. You're not trying to blame or shame yourself. The more you can kind of start to see, like, oh, wow, this really cool thing happened to me, and I just brushed it off as a coincidence, right? So start to catalog these things, write them down, gather that evidence, and just play with it. Play with it. I like to have a lightness with it. I feel like a lot of times that makes it more enjoyable. And whatever way is going to be most enjoyable to you is most likely the thing you're going to keep doing, right? I believe we're here to enjoy life, like energetically, we're here to feel good. And that's what we gravitate towards. So if you make it really difficult, like you make it very task oriented or something that just doesn't feel good to you as far as connecting with your intuition, that it's probably not the right method for you, and it's not going to be sustainable. So those are my comments for today. I'm looking. Yeah. Okay, cool. Would love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let's get that intuition fired. Let's activate it, fire it up, and have fun with it. Okay, that's it for now.